Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. It is certainly an honor and pleasure to have you join us once again on this LinkedIn Live session on all things we do regarding partners and ISVs and things. And so it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Christine Alford, who is an expert in our Marketplace team. And I brought her on this call because for me on the BizApp side, I get so many questions from our partners asking how do I take advantage of my marketplace listing, in this case AppSource, to drive great valuable leads to myself. But just know this content is not just for AppSource. So if you're a BizApps ISV, this is a live event for you. But if you're also an Azure partner that are transacting through the Azure Marketplace, this is also relevant to you because this is all about the marketplaces, whether you're Azure, BizApps, or something else. So with that being said, I encourage everyone as we go through all this content, we'd love to have this be engaging because we know we have people all over the world watching. So you might be in Asia, you might be in Americas, you might be in EMEA. So if you can, we'd love to hear from you. You might see me call you out as we go through the session, and I'll post it up there. And also, I highly encourage you to ask questions. This is definitely content that we want to share, but we have a great knowledgeable person on the marketplace side with Christine that more than happy to pull the questions that people ask, flash up on the screen, and have her respond to it in real time. So with that, welcome, Christine. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So why don't you describe a little bit about what you do, how long you've been at Microsoft, and then what is one thing on your LinkedIn profile that doesn't exist that you want to share with the world?
Okay. Well, as you said, I work on our commercial marketplace team. Actually, specifically focus on customer and partner growth programs, so how to get engagement from both sides within the marketplace. I've been working on Marketplace for about 3 years, and I'm actually a boomerang at Microsoft. Been here once, left, came back again, once under Barmer, now under Satya. And so I'm 8 years, a little over 8 years, I think I've been collectively at the company. Something not on my LinkedIn profile. I think you can do this on LinkedIn, but I haven't. I think they didn't really ask you personal stuff like what do you do outside of work when I first created my profile. So I don't think I filled out the, sports I play and whatnot. And so what's not on my LinkedIn profile is that before I entered the corporate world, I actually had um, a, a failing career in tennis.
Wow.
So
I had no idea. As we were doing pre stuff, Christine, I had no idea. What was are you right-handed, left-handed?
right-handed, and
Right-handed.
I usually tell people, if I had been any good at it, I wouldn't be in my job right now. I'd you'd know my name for other reasons.
That's right. We'd see you on the Wimbledon or the U.S.
Yeah,
Open or the Australian Open. Well, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. So let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Again, thank you again for joining. We are going to go through a couple things, and Christine's actually going to lead this, and I'm going to chime in at natural pauses. If people have questions, pause the conversation and allow her to address them. So here's the agenda, and I'll just have Christine kind of take this over and just walk us through this content, and then of course have her respond as people comment and have questions. So go ahead, Christine.
sure thing. So I thought we'd start with why set up lead management before we then moved in to what are the steps for setting up lead management. There's a lot of documentation out there. So I'm going to point you to where some really great assets exist. And then there's more detailed documentation on the actual setup process that's out there. But I'll go over what are the top questions that we typically get as partners are going through this process. And that's probably a great time that if you've got additional questions to add, put them in there. And then I'll kind of close off with what are best practices? What are common trip ups that I see partners do, or what are things that I think are great that can really set you up for success in the marketplace? And like Brian mentioned at the beginning, this is not just about AppSource. Everything I'm talking about applies to AppSource and Azure Marketplace as well. So let's jump in. Why set up lead management? Lead management is critical to your business success. Essentially, why have something in a marketplace if there's no way for that customer to get in contact with you? This is just simply allowing the capability for a customer to see your offer, get compelled by it, and then be able to reach back out to you. So from your perspective, it allows you to not miss out on business opportunities, right? You don't want to make a customer have to go through the hurdle of, I saw this, it looked great, I couldn't navigate directly to it, I'm going to exit, start my own search journey, and figure out how to get in contact with this partner myself. It's creating a direct connection between where the customer is in that journey and then you as the seller. Super high level, how do you go about doing this? One, it's about integrating your CRM to manage your leads in one central location. So the CRM that you use of choice within your business, you can hook that up to your offer published in our commercial marketplace and have your leads from the commercial marketplace flow directly into that CRM that you have. Two, define a clear sales process with milestones, KPIs, and clear team ownership. So when you're getting these leads, they're going to be different types of leads coming in. So being able to score them and qualify them and internally have a process and a flow in how you're going to manage those leads and who's going to touch them at what points is super important. Qualifying the leads then is obviously really important. So understanding what you're getting from the marketplace, depending on how you've set up your offer, and I'll go into that in a little second, is important. And so knowing whether you're defining a certain type of lead as a low-level lead and it needs, ABC steps of qualification in order to move forward, or is it a more progressed lead, someone who's about to buy, and therefore you're having sales engage instead of marketing and so on. So figuring out a qualification process. Sounds really basic, but following up on a lead. I cannot tell you how many customers complain about, hey, I asked someone to contact me and no one ever contacted me. So just making sure you're super diligent and you, again, have that process in place so you know you're handling leads and you're handling them in a really efficient time frame and quick turnaround, but just following up with the leads that you're getting from Marketplace. And then lastly, nurturing. So once you've followed up with that lead, you've taken them through your marketing or sales process accordingly, like pop them out into your nurture funnels for, however they transpire as a customer. So what I'd like to then just quickly go through is what are the ways that you can be in the marketplace? And essentially, you can have a listing, you can add a trial to that listing, or you can transact through the marketplace. You are getting leads regardless of which state you are in. We encourage partners to be transacting in the marketplace because you're allowing the buyer to go as far along the buyer journey as possible, right? When you only have a plain listing, it means the only action that a customer can take after reading and learning about your product is, as you can see on this little tile, to contact me. So it means they can't understand anymore. Their next step is to have to engage with you. And we know all the research, all the third-party analyst research is saying customers want to be as self-serve as possible. They want to go as far along that journey as they possibly can. So the richer the experience you provide them, if you are providing them the ability to do a trial within the marketplace, or better yet, transacting directly through the marketplace, that's a happier customer, more likely to go through the whole journey more quickly. So if you have a listing, that call to action is contact me. If you've added a trial capability to the offer, the call to action is free trial, or it could be a test drive if you have a test drive. Lots of our BizApps partners have test drives in the marketplace. And then if it's transactable, the call to action is obviously get it now. So when you are getting a lead from the marketplace, the lead you are getting is coded according to whatever that call to action is. So if you have a trial, you would also have the call to action that says contact me. The leads in your marketplace would show up with a code that indicated this customer completed a trial or clicked on trial. This customer asked you to contact me. So you can see the differentiation of its leads. So that's why I just wanted to spend a second going through this. So if we move on, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this slide because it's very detailed and it's step-by-step guidance, and we'll bore people and you'll all drop off if I go through it step by step. But I wanted to put it up here because this is a really great resource that's available to you, and I've got it linked in the resources slide at the end. That, as you can see, has the step-by-step, really simple, really clear instructions for how to set up your CRM or how you're going to hook up your CRM to the system. So the CRMs that we support are Dynamics 365, Marketo, and Salesforce. If you do not have one of those CRMs, you can use an Azure table or an HTTPS endpoint in order to connect your CRM or to get those leads. Pardon me. So again, yeah, this is just a really neat one-page overview. So that depending on which pathway is best for you, you can take this and not have to sift through reams and reams of documentation, and follow these quick steps, and things are linked in there as you need it. So I would take this one pager to your sales or your marketing lead, whoever's going to be the person on point here, and say, here is your one-step guide for setting up our CRM.
Hey, Christine, one really quick. We had a question come in, and thanks for the people that shout out. It's great to have people join the call. We have a question from Eric on what's the best way. It looks like Eric is from a BizApps ISV that has an AppSource solution offer, and they've never been able to get the integration to work. What's the best step, or what's the best first step that a partner can take if they're having challenges with getting, let's say it's we'll just do the basic one. If they have a contact me form at the very beginning, a very basic listing, and they don't know where those leads are coming from, what would be your recommendation on how they can get help if they're having challenges getting that working?
Yeah, so that's a shame, because then you're missing out on all these leads. When you're setting up your CRM, there's the ability to send a test lead or a test email, really, and it shoots an email to whoever you've designated in Partner Center. So I would recommend going back into Partner Center and doing a test lead and making sure that whoever you've set up is getting that email. If that's not working for you, I'm not sure what the issue might be, and I'd want to bring in support. So I'd say let's make that step one, and if not step two, let's open up a support ticket for you.
Great. And then Eric, just as be aware, when you think about the support ticket in Partner Center, in the top right-hand side, I think it's a little widget or a little question mark box. That is where you can create a support request. And I think one of the options will be AppSource or lead generation from AppSource, something like that.
Lead management, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you can generate it. So great. Thanks for answering that in real time, Christine. Yeah, so we can continue moving forward.
Great. So next up, just the top questions that I get most often from partners. Is this required? The short answer is yes. There's a much longer answer in that. The bit of elaboration I'll provide here is when we first launched the marketplace, we did not make this required. So you could have put in an offer and not have hooked up your CRM, and we didn't mind. I wanted to remove as many barriers and hurdles and make it as painless as possible for partners to list their solutions really quickly. But then we realized, what's the point of being in a marketplace if you're not actually setting up your CRM and having a way to connect with customers directly? So it is now required. So I say that, I give you all that background because if you've had your offer in marketplace for a while, you may not have your CRM connected and not even realize it, which means customers are looking at your offer and think they're getting in contact with you because it says contact me, but it's not going anywhere. So if you've been in marketplace for a while, make sure you go back into Partner Center and check that your CRM is hooked up using those steps that I provided earlier. How can I find a test lead? This taps into the question that Brian asked just earlier. So you can trigger a test lead as well within Partner Center, and you'll see that lead in your CRM. Should that be all successful, Microsoft_test. So it'll stand out very differently from any other lead.
Hey, one thing, Christine, that's a good call. We had another question from Laura, and I'll flash it up. It shows LinkedIn user, but this is a question from Laura. Our CRM is connected to AppSource and an Azure Marketplace. Our setup is contact only. Now company has contacted us. Should we be able to see that count not only in their CRM, whatever CRM solution they connected to, but will they also see it in Partner Center?
I don't think you'll see there's no like list of leads that you have within Partner Center. You're getting those leads within your CRM, and they will be coded, which is actually a wonderful segue to the next question, which is how would I know the difference between the types of leads? In documentation that I've got linked at the end, there's a wonderful table for it. But basically, each lead has a different code. So you'll see your marketplace leads different from other leads that you're pushing into your CRM. And then you'll see even the difference between your different marketplace leads. So you've got contact me only. So you'll just get that one code type consistently for your marketplace leads. But if you had contact me and trial, you would have two different possible code types, right? Hopefully that answers Laura's question.
Yeah, I believe so. And again, for anyone who's listening this live, if we're not answering your question or if you have a follow-up, please do not hesitate to put it in the comments because we are taking the questions in real time. And before we end, definitely an opportunity to have Christine, who is not very knowledgeable in this, to be able to answer a question in real time. So please keep them coming. Go ahead, Christine. I don't see any other questions in here yet.
So the next question is a super nuanced one, or niche one, I should say, pardon me. I received an email for the commercial marketplace. So this partner's set up the email notifications for getting the lead, which you can do within Partner Center. But now they go into their CRM and they can't find the lead. So if you've done your test scenario and you know everything's working correctly, then this wouldn't happen except for EDU customers. So for privacy reasons, we don't pass on PII from anyone from a .edu domain. If you know it's not from a .edu domain, let's submit a support ticket. There might be a problem with your CRM connection, but that one EDU scenario is just a scenario where the leads operate just a little bit differently. 5, there was an issue with my lead destination and I missed some leads. Can someone have them sent to me an email? So this is, again, all PII and it's extremely locked down at Microsoft. I do not have access. I would have to jump through a million hoops in order to go access and say, I want the leads from this partner, please. So no, unfortunately, we do not email partners, hey, here's leads you might have missed on Monday for whatever reason. So again, it's just more reinforcement for make sure you've gone through the process and set everything up accurately and you've done the test lead to know that things are working well on your end. I'm receiving email notifications when customer leads are received. How can I configure someone else to receive the emails? Super simple. All of this is done in Partner Center. So you're going to, like, everything about your offer publishing is now in Partner Center. If you published a couple of years ago, that wasn't true. There was a separate publishing process, but now everything is all in Partner Center, all in one place. So that same place in Partner Center is where you'll also go to just manage your offer and manage any of the like system setups and requirements. So to Partner Center, you're going to go to your offer setup page. Then there's a lead management tab, and then you can click edit, and you can change the email address to be anybody you want to at your company in order to receive those email notifications about leads. So these are probably the most commonly asked questions that we get from partners. I'll just pause, Brian. Are there any other questions popping up that people have asked?
Not that I see.
Move on?
So yeah, so it looks like hopefully we're addressing all this education, and that's I learned something new myself, which is I didn't realize, and this is because we have a GISP in the education space, and I didn't realize that we wouldn't see the EDU messages come in. So maybe I have a specific question. When those announcements come in via email form, not necessarily in CRM, does it have any detail in the email, or does it just say you have a new lead in the notification?
You know, I don't know that because I don't have an organization where I have a CRM set up and have listed myself. So I don't know what that actual email template looks like. I imagine it says you have a new lead because email is not a secure way to be sending around PII, but I can't fully confirm that. But logic tells me it would just be a notification, not contain any of the information.
Thank you. I figured the same way because you're to exactly your point, because it's not secure. We just say there's something that exists, but you have to go into whatever the endpoint is to actually see
right,
it.
Which is secure. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, great. So we'll just go to talking about, it's a good segue into what should partners be thinking about as best practices through this process?
So great. Step one, enable lead management. Like I said, some partners do not have their CRMs hooked up to their solution. So please, if you have any takeaway, it's at the very, very least, make sure you go into Partner Center and double check that you have enabled lead management. I've got a little screenshot here. There's a drop-down box where you're going to pick whatever that endpoint is. Like I mentioned earlier, following up on leads in a timely manner is super critical. Just think of yourself as a customer experience. When you're in the buyer journey and you're wanting more information and you want to get in touch with a sales rep or someone at that company, and maybe you're on hold for ages, or someone doesn't answer you for several days, you lose a lot of interest, right? So connecting with the customer in the moment as early as you can is super, super important. Some third-party research said that 67% of sales are actually lost as a result of reps not properly qualifying customers or following up. Third, set up a lead scoring system. So the leads you get from Marketplace are going to be varied, and not all of them are going to be ones that you want to jump on immediately with expensive sales resources. If you have a contact me, that buyer, it might just be browsing, and it might be someone that you want to make your first line of interaction be with marketing, and to gauge their interest and to prod around, like, is this a real buyer with decision-making power that I'm engaged with? Is this someone who's just exploring a product? Is this someone who or is there someone who wants to go further? So figure out, when you're looking at the different codes from the leads that are coming into Marketplace, have a system set up of how you engage back with that that lead, and then score them and increase that score as they become more engaged. Obviously, someone who's engaged with your trial in the Marketplace is a much higher qualified lead and more likely to engage, and that might be a great lead that you say, I'm going to put sales as a follow-up here because they've already experienced it and either they're ready to buy or we need to convince them to buy. And then lastly, nurture. I mentioned this earlier, but 65% of all businesses don't nurture leads, third-party research showed. So any company that does actually follow up and nurture a lead after engagement have apparently a 47% higher profit margin than companies who do not. So make sure you're really engaged with your marketing department here and making any of your Marketplace leads follow a nurture process, either immediately or post whatever that qualification system and scoring system that you have set up does. And then that was it. On the last slide, I just have the resources that I've been referencing. Commercial Marketplace Best Practices Guide. This is a full guide with much more information than what I've gone through today. It does talk about lead management, but it has an end-to-end best practices on managing your offer in Marketplace, how to do listing optimization, creating campaign landing pages, best practices for that, and so on. So I encourage you to download that best practices guide. There's also a Marketplace marketing toolkit. That one slider that I had with the step-by-step for each different CRM or endpoint is in that marketing toolkit. So if you want to download that, click on the marketing toolkit. And then lastly, I've just got 3 links to docs.com. Docs can be is much more thorough in its information. So if you want to take your PM or your dev who might be managing the offering Marketplace or whoever's doing that, they might be interested in looking through that docs information. And so we've got documentation on setting up lead management. So it's a bit more thorough than just than that one pager that we have, as well as specific documentation on configuring the lead types. Then there's also an FAQ section, which has many more questions answered than what I covered today. But that's at your disposal as well.
Fantastic, Christine. I'm going to flash up we compiled all this great information, not only the deck, because the deck, of course, has all these great links, but we compiled a repository, and I'll flash it up in a second. But one question we did have, Christine, was a follow-up from Laura again. Let me put it up here. When adding a lead in Partner Center, referrals, I can optionally add a CRM ID and a marketing campaign ID. Using Microsoft Dynamics Sales Hub, where do I find these IDs and why should I add them? She denoted the help site didn't help, and then she put a link to the documentation. So I'm not sure if that's something you can answer in real time, but
yeah, I mean, these are optional. They're for you to define. So if you have set up a campaign and you want to make sure that any lead clicking through on links connected to that campaign is identified. So your marketing team can say, these are all leads associated with campaign A that I ran versus campaign B. You're putting in that ID tag that you're making up for whatever that campaign is. There's standard tagging that's in that documentation of how we tag the lead for you, right? So if it's a do not contact, someone wanted to get off there, it'd be DNC. It says trial if it's a lead that came from a trial. So that's stuff that you're not changing. This is an optional tag that you can add. So you'd be defining that.
that's great. I'm just checking. I don't see any other questions, so we'll give it a few more minutes while I flash this up. If anyone has anything else, please put it in the comments because we have a few more minutes before we end the actual live broadcast. But here is the link that I mentioned. So this is a compile of not just the presentation, but the resources that Christine had went through. And it's a great starting point. I think a lot of this information that Christine shared, hopefully everyone learned something new, was able to take advantage of it, or just for me, it got enlightened with one thing I didn't know. But definitely take advantage of it. And if there are any issues as you're running through it, the always first step is to go into Partner Center and make a support request to the teams, because then that can be routed to the right people and triaged, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, thanks, Janet, talking about campaign codes are essential, and agreed, because if you know where things are being flowed in, it helps you understand where your leads are being generated from and run your reports, et cetera. So I think all those things, as you tie that in, that's the importance of, if you have a CRM tool and you use that effectively, that's where it can run the management, the nurture things, all the things that Christine talked about as best practices. Having that set in the process allows you to then take action as people flow through the buyer's journey that they go through. So I don't think we have any other questions, Christine. So what's next? I guess before we close out, anything you'd want to share as to kind of other things that the Marketplace team may be working on, and then any other parting thoughts that you wanted to provide to the live viewers?
Always, I mean, stay up in tune for our roadmap updates. We are constantly launching new features and functionality in the Marketplace every month. This is a very important motion for Microsoft and for our partner network. We know that like every bit of research and even our own internal data is telling us that buyers are looking increasingly to online marketplaces in order to buy. And us as a company and with our partner network, we want to be able to sell in the way that customers want to buy and meet them the way that they want to be met. So, I would encourage every single partner to get in the Marketplace, and then now not just be in the Marketplace, but think about, how am I really going to pivot my business around this as a go-to-market motion, because it is the future of buying and selling.
Great. Well, Christine, thank you so much. For everyone listening, appreciate you allocating time. We're trying to make this a weekly thing. Just know next week, for those of you in the US, it is a US holiday. It is President's Day. I am personally taking the week off, and so there will not be a LinkedIn Live event next week. But the following week, just to tease it out, we will have a LinkedIn Live event, but we're actually going to hear from a partner. We're actually going to hear from a new BizApps ISV who recently joined the Microsoft BizApps ecosystem ISV Connect, to hear about their experience and hear about their outcomes. And so thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Feel free to follow Christine or myself on LinkedIn to continue to see things that we post. And have a great week, and stay safe and be well. Thanks again, Christine.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brian.